Athletic just put out an article today that says WNBA players' proposal more than double revenue share proposed by league. And shout out to Van Shea on Twitter. He does a great job at summarizing some of these articles and pulling out the important points. So in this one, it said the WNBA recently rejected a WNBPA proposal in which players would have received 33% of total revenue for each year on
33%. That was the WNBA's offer, and it was dismissed without hesitation. According to The Athletic's latest report, the Players Association fired back with a counterproposal demanding more than twice that share of league revenue. This isn't a small gap or a negotiable detail, it's a fundamental divide. The two sides remain miles apart, and with the extension deadline arriving in the first week of January, time is no longer a factor. It's the enemy.
They have not been moved by the massive salary increase that the WNBA has offered. Like we've talked about before, the max salary would be well over $1 million, with the minimum salary being around $200,000. And just for reference, $220,000 was the max salary during the last WNBA season. So obviously the tides have changed completely when it comes to the salary that the
Here's the key detail most people overlook. The WNBA doesn't own all of its league revenue. In reality, it controls only about 40%. That's a crucial difference from the NBA, which owns its entire revenue stream, making revenue sharing far more straightforward. When the WNBA controls just 40% of the total pie, offering players 33% of overall revenue means surrendering a huge portion of what the league actually owns. That's where the math quickly becomes messy. This limited ownership stake is the real structural issue no one is addressing. You can't simply copy the NBA's revenue model when the foundation of the business is completely different.
Because this boom that has currently happened in the WNBA, we only really have 2 seasons of this massive boom. And so I've also been one that says like maybe the players should take a smaller revenue split and then renegotiate the CBA in a couple years. Agree on the higher salaries, you'll make more money instantly, and then work on this revenue split later on, because some really big business things have to happen within the WNBA for them to be able to give up more revenue.
This is the critical nuance most discussions miss. The WNBA does not own its full revenue stream. It controls only around 40% of it. That reality sets it apart from the NBA, which owns all of its revenue and can therefore distribute it far more cleanly. When a league controls just 40% of the total pie, committing 33% of overall revenue to players means sacrificing a disproportionate share of what it actually owns. That's when the numbers stop being simple and start becoming a real problem. This partial ownership is the structural flaw few are willing to confront. You can't replicate the NBA's revenue-sharing model when the underlying business architecture is fundamentally different.
It also says that the WNBPA has proposed mandating teams carry 12 players at all times. Each team currently can carry a maximum of 12 players and a minimum of 11. The WNBPA is also proposing that teams be allowed to sign up to 2 additional developmental players who would receive a stipend and could appear in 10 games per season at a prorated minimum league salary before signing a rest of season contract. Developmental players will also
Let's focus on what the league is actually putting on the table, because the proposed salary increases are massive. The maximum salary would soar to well over $1 million, while the minimum would rise to around $200,000. For perspective, the max salary in the 2024 season was just $220,000. Under this proposal, the new minimum would nearly equal what the league's top earners made only a year ago. These aren't symbolic raises. They represent a complete overhaul of the pay structure. So why aren't the players satisfied? Because salary hikes are a one-time win, while revenue sharing lasts forever. If the league keeps growing, revenue sharing allows players to benefit automatically from that success. Fixed salaries, on the other hand, cap their upside no matter how big the league becomes. The players learned this lesson in the last CBA. They watched the league's growth explode and realized they had negotiated away their share of that upside. This time, they're determined not to repeat that mistake.
And this is starting to get into NBA territory when we talk about the G League and those kind of developmental players that can become two-way players and they can play in both league. And it also gets into that territory of like 10-day contracts that you see a lot in the NBA. The WNBA never had the infrastructure to be able to support this. And that's where it starts to get sticky. We saw last year with all the injuries that happened in the WNBA, there were so many hardship contract players. And even then, the rules are so...
Developmental players, two-way contracts, and 10-day deals are beginning to resemble a full G League style system. The league is now pushing for teams to carry a consistent 12-player roster at all times, rather than fluctuating between 11 and 12. The proposal includes 2 new developmental roster spots with stipends, giving those players eligibility to appear in up to 10 games at a prorated minimum salary before potentially earning a full season contract. Housing would also be provided. This plan directly tackles a long-standing issue. Think back to the injury crisis during the 2024 season, when teams were forced to rely on a revolving door of hardship contracts. Yuri McDonald's situation with the Fever is a perfect example. Fans wanted her retained for the entire season, but roster rules required the team to release her and later re-sign her. That scenario exposed just how flawed the system had become. However, there is an unavoidable trade-off. Every new layer of infrastructure comes with a cost. Developmental programs, expanded rosters, and improved benefits all require significant financial investment. Those expenses inevitably reduce the revenue pool available for player sharing. It's unrealistic to demand both increased revenue distribution and major infrastructure expansion without acknowledging that these objectives directly compete with one another.
Going to have to be some things that the Players Association and the WNBA compromise on for this CBA because the girls need to get back on the court. And here's the last important point when it comes to expanding the season. So it says, amid the league's recent expansion boom, the union is proposing increasing the number of games in a season to 48, while the league has 15, 16, or 17 teams. This would increase to up to 50 games in an 18-team league per the union's proposal. The league is proposing the option to play even more games than the union's proposal beginning.
A 48-game season with 15 to 17 teams, or a 50-game schedule once the league expands to 18 teams. That is the proposal coming from the Players Association. The league, however, is pushing back with an even more aggressive idea, increasing the number of games starting in 2027 while also moving the season's start date earlier. That suggestion immediately raises serious logistical questions. If the season begins in April, how are teams supposed to draft college players who are still competing in the NCAA tournament? And how do rookies realistically transition into training camp without disruption? At its core, the current structure makes the WNBA feel like an afterthought. The entire season is squeezed into a 4-month summer window, carefully positioned to avoid overlap with men's basketball and football. That approach made sense when the league was smaller and fighting for survival, but it increasingly looks outdated as the league continues to grow.
Tron being guarded by Veronica Burton. Kelsey Plum with the big steal. Takes it up the court to Jackie Young to Bree Jones. And that's one thing, you guys, that I've noticed from a lot of these highlights. It seems like they are playing fast, and I really love that. Nice move, Aaliyah Boston. Kelsey Plum again, running point to Dearica Hamby. Chelsea Gray with a behind the back pass, her signature. Tough move, Dearica Hamby with the left hand. Ooh, Sony Citron got her lick back. She strips Kelsey Plum, takes it all the way to the opposite end. Caitlin Clark getting double teamed even at Team USA minicamp. Aaliyah Boston, top of the key three-pointer. I love that. Chelsea Gray.
If the WNBA truly wants to be recognized as a top-tier professional league, it can't operate like a short summer exhibition. A real season requires at least 6 months. The NBA runs from October to June, and for the WNBA to build lasting fan engagement and a strong media presence, it needs a season of comparable length, but extending the schedule brings new challenges. Starting earlier would clash with college basketball's championship stretch, while pushing the season later means competing directly with the NFL, NBA, and the start of the college basketball season. There's no perfect solution. Something has to give. The league will have to embrace competition with another major sport and have the confidence that its product can still attract viewers and sell tickets, even when football or basketball is dominating the sports landscape.
For you guys today, of course, let me know all of your thoughts in the comments below. Thumbs up this video if you enjoyed it. Click that little subscribe button because we upload new videos every single week. Tomorrow, I have another NBA video planned for you guys, and I will definitely be tapped into that NBA Cup game. Go Spurs. I hope that they can pull this one off. So stay tuned for that. We have a lot more Radmas to come, and with that, you guys, I'll see you next time. Why'd I wave like that? I never wave like that.
Now, let's focus on what unfolded on the court, because the Team USA training camp footage perfectly illustrates why these CBA negotiations are so crucial. Look at the speed and intensity they're playing with. Chelsea Gray delivering slick behind-the-back passes, Kelsey Plum driving fast break transitions, Caitlin Clark facing double teams even during scrimmages, and Aaliyah Boston showcasing an expanded offensive arsenal with mid-range jumpers and three-point attempts. This is elite basketball, the kind fans truly want to see. The veterans versus youngsters format naturally generated compelling storylines. Watching Paige Buchers, Angel Reese, and Caitlin Clark share the court sparked conversations about more than basketball, with people marveling at their chemistry and impact, even joking about world peace and healing. Next Voice 9. But let's be real, these are professional athletes competing for limited spots on the 2026 FIA World Cup roster. Naturally, they're going to act like professionals and play winning basketball together. College rivalries and social media drama don't matter when your goal is to represent your country. No one is going to risk their Team USA chances over minor disagreements. What truly stood out was the depth of talent on display. Sony Citron knocking down threes, Raka Jackson making clutch plays, Durga Hami finishing through contact, and Alyssa Thomas doing everything that makes her unique. The overall skill level was extraordinary, and that is exactly the kind of product the WNBA is selling. Protecting that talent and showcasing it consistently is what the league must prioritize. Here's why the CBA situation is so critical. Missing the 2026 season, or even significantly delaying it, wouldn't just be bad, it would be catastrophic. The league's current momentum, which everyone keeps referencing, is built on 2 consecutive seasons of consistent visibility. Fans showed up for Caitlin Clark's rookie year and returned for her sophomore season. They're expecting a third. Without a season, or with one that starts months late, that continuity evaporates. Casual fans who are just beginning to engage drift away. Media coverage that has been steadily growing stalls. Sponsors who finally started committing serious dollars may pull back. Players need to recognize that this isn't 2020, when the WNBA could pause a season due to COVID and bounce back relatively unscathed. The landscape today is far less forgiving. Everyone understood the context of the global pandemic. But a work stoppage over CBA negotiations? That's a deliberate choice. Casual fans won't care who is to blame. They'll simply stop watching. Hardcore fans might return eventually, but the Caitlin Clark fans who just tuned in, the families buying tickets for the first time, and the brands experimenting with WNBA partnerships, they'll move on. Winning them back later will be far harder than keeping them engaged in the first place. Caitlin Clark herself emphasized this in her Team USA interview. Both sides will need to compromise. The Players Association can't have everything they want, and the league can't either. Someone has to give. The longer the stalemate continues, the more damage is inflicted, no matter who ultimately wins the negotiation. From the players' perspective, the stakes couldn't be higher. They've finally gained leverage, captured public attention, and proven that fans are willing to pay to watch them play. This is their chance to secure generational wealth and create a truly sustainable economic model for the league. Players have witnessed previous generations of WNBA stars struggle financially while building the league into a valuable enterprise. They don't want to be the generation that settles for crumbs once the table is finally full, and that's a perfectly reasonable stance. Now consider the owner's perspective. They've poured money into a league that operated at a loss for decades, subsidizing operations, covering deficits, and sustaining franchises during years when few people paid attention. Today, the league is finally showing signs of profitability, and suddenly the players are asking for a locked-in revenue share based on just 2 successful seasons. But what if growth stalls? What if expansion spreads talent too thin? What if the next draft class doesn't produce another Caitlin Clark? Owners are being asked to commit significant portions of revenue with only a very short history of financial success. That, too, is a completely legitimate position. The league's structural realities make these negotiations even more complex. The 40% revenue control issue isn't going away anytime soon. For the WNBA to gain more control over its revenue streams, it would need to renegotiate its entire network of relationships with teams, sponsors, and media partners. That's not something that can be fixed overnight. It's years of complex business restructuring. Players want this solved immediately, while owners argue that it simply can't be done within the current timeline. The discussions around a developmental league, roster expansion, and season length all hinge on infrastructure that doesn't yet exist. You can't just snap your fingers and create a G League equivalent. You need facilities, coaching staff, front office personnel, medical teams, travel logistics, and broadcast capabilities. The NBA spent decades building that ecosystem. The WNBA is attempting it within a single CBA cycle. Here's my perspective. The players should accept a smaller revenue share for now, paired with a guaranteed renegotiation window in 3 years. Lock in the significant salary increases, secure the expanded rosters, and build the foundation for long-term growth. Secure the improved benefits and travel conditions first. Then let the players prove that the league's growth is sustainable. If attendance keeps climbing, if sponsorship revenue continues to rise, and if the league maintains a strong trajectory, the players will have unassailable leverage in 3 years to demand a higher revenue share. But pushing this issue now and triggering a work stoppage risks destroying the very momentum they've worked to build. The league should agree to a renegotiation window and commit to full, transparent revenue reporting. If growth is truly sustainable, prove it. Open the books and show the players exactly how revenue is performing. Trust is built through transparency. When the renegotiation comes in 3 years, both sides will be working from the same data. Right now, however, both parties are entrenched. The players rejected 33% and countered with an even higher demand. Patience and transparency could turn that conflict into a strategic advantage.